All right, everybody. Coach Steve here. Doing something a little bit different today. It's the first time I'm recording this with video. So, when I thought about which conversation, which topic I want to talk about, it is definitely going to be training. Training is something that I love talking about, workouts, workout progression, building a season, all these kind of things. So today we're going to talk about the most effective off-season kind of base training workouts to do. We're going to do swimming, we're going to do biking, we're going to do running, and we're going to do strength. And I'm just going to go down the list and talk about which sessions I think have the most bang for their buck right now. And so that this is like with the mindset that your peak races are July, they're August, they're September, and they're October. Okay, that's very important to put your mind is like, what are my peak races and how far away are we? Because right now it's February. And it's also very, very important when you're planning a season and think, okay, my A race is in September or whenever, way over here, and I'm right here, February. Your training now, for the most part, should look nothing like what it will look like in June, July, August, September when you're in more of that specialization phase. So right now, it looks very non-specific. So if you're doing a lot of tempo and sweet spot, like more rate specific things way over here, right now it should look like VO2 max, upper zone 4, like that kind of intensity range because you're trying to work different properties now because you can't work the same intensity property for 8 to 10 months. Like you just can't do it. Like you need to fluctuate different levels of intensity and volume and stimulus and everything like within this. And so the key thing that we're looking at is right now, you ideally are looking for speed gains, right? So if we're looking to get faster swimming, yeah, it's like let's get into it. So I think the most effective workout to do right now for swimming in the base season has a lot it has a lot to do with a lot of 25s. A lot of faster 25s where you're working on holding really good form at a faster speed. And a faster speed is like, say, this is your threshold. You're working a little bit faster than your threshold because threshold for 25s, like you're not going to get anything from it. Like the stimulus is really small. So it's really important to think about the intensity of the 25s have to be fast enough to where, you're thinking about holding good tension, in that catch and pull phase, having enough tension within your core and your hips to produce that power. And swimming a threshold or easier 25s is not going to give you that muscular tension, that you're looking for. So what I would look at that is thinking, say you do a drill set, and that could be just think like close fist, a good one for working on enter, pop that arm through very quickly, like get to that catch phase quickly, and then you're pulling back to the hip. So what you could do is you could do 4 25s close fist, and you rest 10 seconds, you rest 15 seconds, and then you do 10 25s fast. The recovery is 7 seconds. It could be 10 seconds. I wouldn't go much more than that, maybe 15. So you're doing a drill set and a really fast 25s. And you're thinking about holding good form. Something that I like to think about is, you want to hold, push down, and then pull to the hip, right? And a lot of times people forget that pull down. They just kind of like get to the front and then they yank the arm back, and then that paddle isn't super great. And so then you repeat that again. So you could go back to the same drill set and you could do 10 25s again, or you do 8 25s, adding a little bit more rest because the fatigue could be a little bit higher. And you don't want to short the rest. I think that's my biggest pet peeve is like you don't want to short recovery when you're working on good form, you're working on increasing velocity, because a lot of times, specifically triathletes, they just want to get through the workout And a lot of times that mentality of just getting through the workout when you're working on speed is that they see the speed just kind of like go this way. And in a set where you want to keep speed the same or build it, the workout's kind of ruined. Like you don't get the stimulus from that. So be okay adding a little bit more recovery as you move through that. And then again, you would repeat that again. So you do the same drill set, close fist, or maybe you go to like a little bit of like single arm where you go pull, push through, like really work on pulling straight through. I think would also be really helpful. You could do 250 single arm, right arm down, left arm back. And then again, 1025s fast and now maybe going to that 15 seconds. But again, you have to hold good form. You have to push yourself. One thing I think about, like with the athletes that I work with, has a lot to do with like what should you feel like post workout? Like like what should your body feel like? You shouldn't walk away from the session thinking, "Oh, I didn't do anything. That was a waste of my time." And you shouldn't walk away from the set thinking you emptied your soul into this workout. There's somewhere in between. Like you finish it and your chest and your triceps and your lats, like they're tired. They've been worked, but you almost feel energized because of the 25s. If these were 50s or 75s or 100s, you would feel pretty exhausted. But the nice thing of doing fast 25s is that you can go really fast, you can hold good tension, it's really purposeful also. Like you just feel like you're swimming with so much purpose, where you feel energized leaving the pool, yet a little bit fatigued. So you do want some like a good amount of fatigue. You do want muscle breakdown, right? If you finish having felt like you didn't have muscle breakdown, you went too easy or you didn't do enough 25s to get the most out of it. Recovery time after a workout like this, I would say would be 2 days. That's it. And then you can swim hard again. So if you do the set on maybe a Monday, right? I mean, like this isn't a big set. Like you might swim 2,500 total with warm up, main set, cool down, where you can get a good spark. But again, it's not a big enough set that's going to really demolish you. So 2 days, so you can come back on a Wednesday and maybe do a little bit more of a different kind of a set, or you repeat the same set Monday, Friday. Sometimes, like with my athletes, I really like repeating the same workout on a Monday or on a Friday, or that same session or something close to that, because you do a workout, and a lot of times an athlete will want to finish the workout and think, I would have done this differently. I could have done this differently. And if you repeat it again very short in a short period of time, then they can take that change and really move it into something new and something different, like just doing it better, like doing that same workout better. And it might actually say if they're swimming 20 seconds or they're swimming 18 seconds for the 25s, maybe they make some small tweaks and they're going 17, right? Within 1 week, they've already seen improvement. And that's kind of like what we're looking for, because I think that's nice. So don't be afraid to repeat sessions within the same week. You can actually see growth and you can keep that athlete pretty focused. And a lot of times, if you do a workout and don't do it again, then the athlete doesn't see growth. And most athletes that I've worked with want to see growth. So uh, the second one, so the bike. So the most effective off-season bike workout that I think triathletes can see big return on is low cadence, high power. This is a session that, like with my athletes, like we have been integrating more and more and more, and the return has been really good. So I wanted to talk about this because there's a lot of talk about like torque training, and what that means is like low cadence. And most people do a good job with low cadence, but they don't add the appropriate amount of torque to get the recruitment needed to see growth. And so that's another pet peeve of mine, is that like you see people do like 1 minute intervals at say 50 RPMs or 60 RPMs, but they're doing them at 80% of your FTP, 85, maybe 90. And I just don't think there's enough. resistance coming from the intensity aspect of that to see enough muscle fiber recruitment to get enough growth out of it. Like you're doing it, like, yeah, I'm doing good. Like I'm pushing like a low cadence and it's kind of hard, but I would recommend pushing those things to 95% of your FTP, 100%, 105% of your FTP. If they're 1 minute, start there, or maybe start at 30 seconds. But most of my athletes will start around 1 minute and they'll do 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And it'll be 50 or 55 or 60 RPMs. And I say 95 to 105%. And these should feel hard. Like you should really feel like you're kind of like pedaling through mud and you really have to like force the pedal stroke really hard from that like 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock position, that you have to accelerate the pedal to get more muscle fiber recruitment out of that. Because again, like we're looking for a very high torque, high muscle fiber recruitment. This is like hill repeats running where you are getting speed out of this because the intensity is high. The muscle fiber recruitment is also very high. So it's kind of like a sneaky little workout. Like I said, you really want to focus on that acceleration phase. 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, like push those pedals really, really hard down. And when you do that, you'll feel a little bit more glute, a little bit more quad, a little bit more hamstring. Like you can't have like a mono speed cadence. Like you want to think about push down at the front, and that'll get a little bit more muscle fiber recruitment out of that from that acceleration. And that's one thing I see a lot of triathletes not doing right is that they have a very one speed cadence, and you want to have a little bit of an acceleration through that. So again, this is something where I would start with 30 seconds or 1 minute, but we're going to go for 1 minute where we go 5 rounds or 5 by 1 minute, 95 to 105% of your FTP with 1 minute easy at 45 to 50% of your FTP. So you do 5 of those and you get 3 to 5 minutes of additional rest, and you do it again, 5 by 1 minute, one on, one off, extra rest, do it again. So start at say 15 of them. That's how I would look at that. And again, like if you're doing these right, metabolically, like your heart rate does not go up as high because we're not trying to aim for that. Like if you did this workout at 90 RPMs or 100 RPMs, like metabolically, like your heart rate would be pretty high. But we're looking for muscle load. We're looking for muscle tension. And that's really important to think about like what is the goal of this session? And the goal is strength. So low cadence, higher intensity, really try that and push that one through. So when you finish this, like I just said, like you're not going to finish it thinking, wow, I'm so out of breath. Okay. You're going to think about that like, okay, my legs feel pretty tired. They feel kind of smoked, but they don't feel that smoked. Like this is a workout where you're probably going to feel more fatigue later in the day, the next day, but you don't feel it immediately. If you feel it immediately, then you probably went like way too hard for a session like this. And so recovery time after a workout like this, like let's say you did this on Tuesday, I wouldn't do anything hard until Saturday because of the type 1, type 2 muscle fiber recruitment being pretty high. You don't want to risk trying to squeeze in a bike workout on Wednesday or Thursday. I would do this like on a Tuesday and then move this thing over to a Saturday for the second one. So really productive session, base season workout. And again, when you do that, you can progress it to 3 rounds of eights, or you can do 4 rounds of 5 by 1, but keep progressing the amount. Or you can go to say 90 seconds on, 90 seconds easy, or 2 minutes on. Because if you look at some research papers that have been done on low cadence, high power, the low cadence when pushing pretty high power was produced some pretty impressive results. So um, try that one out. And then the third one is something that you don't see a lot of triathletes doing, but you see a lot of runners doing. And so when you kind of mold in running and looking at running improvement and trying to get a little bit more speed and a little bit more durability, this workout for triathletes, I made it a little bit more different, a little less intense because again, like when you're swimming, biking, and running, you can't do like a full running workout because then it's really going to affect the next couple days later. So you have to think about how does this stimulus apply for the next day? Because if you overshoot running workouts, it wreaks havoc on your swimming. It wreaks havoc on your strength training. It just everything, right? You can push a swim pretty hard. You can push a bike pretty hard. But if you push a run with too much volume, too much intensity, injury, and the rest of the week, kaput. Not very good. So this workout, again, we're working two intensities. Okay. And we're working on hills and we're working on threshold, all within the same thing. And so this is a good one to do like in a transfer period. So like let's say the final 4 to 6 weeks before this period, December to January, you're doing hills. Like you're just doing straight hills, working on speed and power and form and all these things. Now, this is a transfer period workout where you want to keep some hills in there, but you want to start working a little bit of threshold. Now, we're not going to do speed yet because that comes after this period, but this is a transfer, yeah, a transfer workout. So don't overthink that. So what we're working on is speed and we're working on sustainable strength. So the goals of this workout have a lot to do with running form, lifting the knees, good tall posture, not slumped like I feel like I have been this whole time, but good posture, head, shoulders, hips, feet, all one line, not leaning too far forward, please. Do not lean too far forward. So we're going to start with 30 seconds to 1 minute hill repeats. So you warm up and then you find your hill. The duration of the hill does not need to be massively important, but 30 seconds to 1 minute where we want some lactate production but not a ton. So if you go too long or too steep, that's bad. 30 seconds to 1 minute could be on a treadmill. If you're on a treadmill, you could go like 6%, 7%, 8%. And then for the recovery, just kind of like straddle the treadmill and let the belt run and then jump back on, do it, straddle the treadmill, let the belt run. So you're not like messing with the speed. So what you want to do is you want to do 4 to 5 by 1 minute hill and you're working at like a 3K effort or a 5K effort. Not speed, like do not run 5K speed up a hill or you're going to be burning out. You want to look around an effort going up the hill. So 4 to 5 by 1 minute uphill at 3K to 5K effort because we're looking for speed. Don't go even harder because again, then we're adding too much stress. So when you're doing that, you should feel tall posture. You should think about lifting the quads up, pushing the feet down, pushing the feet back. You want to feel like you're marching up the hill running. And the good thing about the hill is that it helps you keep from kicking that foot out a little bit too much. So you're doing that, you're doing the hills, then the recovery is jog down, walk down, but you're thinking so much more about run posture, run form, not about how do I max out this hill. Fast, controlled, with good form. Okay. Then after the hills, you jog easy, 3 to 5 minutes, and you find a flat ground. Treadmill, again, also good for this. And then you're doing 5 by 3 minutes, and you're working at 10K pace at the fastest, threshold at the slowest. There's a little bit of a difference, 10 to 15 seconds per mile difference for some people, 10K to threshold. 10K and threshold are not the same thing unless you are like a 50-minute 10K runner, then they're around the same thing. But if you're somebody who can run a 10K 6 minute pace, 7 minute pace, then you need to slow down a little bit. So it's 5 by 3 minutes at that 10K threshold intensity with only 1 minute to 115 easy. You could walk a little bit of that. You can easy jog, you know, if you ran your efforts at 7 minute pace, easy jog at 9 minute pace, 9:30 pace, like really turn it down. The short recovery forces you not to overrun, which is very key. If you add too much recovery, naturally you're going to send it. And we don't want you sending it. The one thing also is that when you go from the hills to the flats, is that you're thinking about what did I apply in the hills and how do I apply them on the flats? So again, like you're looking at, you're thinking when you're running the 3 minute efforts, tall posture, lifting the quads up, pushing the feet down, pushing the feet back, like working through those same cues. And what's interesting is that when we have athletes do this kind of a workout, very commonly when they start the 3 minute efforts, let's just say 3 minutes, they almost feel more warmed up. They don't feel less fatigued. The hills stimulate the nervous system. They really get the legs primed so that then when they go to the flats, they feel like they can really run well and run really efficient. So really try this if you're in this period of time where you want to work some speed, but you also want to work the engine, the 10K threshold stuff. So, typically at the end of this workout, because it is a hard workout, you'll finish it and you'll feel tired because metabolically your heart rate will have elevated right from the hills and also the 3 minute efforts and the short recovery. But also on a muscular standpoint, you'll be pretty tired. Like it's a big session, right? You want that breakdown. And don't be afraid to work hard because if you don't ever push workouts to a certain limit, you're not going to get the muscular breakdown so that when you go through the super compensation phase, you see more growth. A lot of times, triathletes are really good at always working about here. And then the super compensation is like so minimal that they don't see any improvement. So, and this is why recovery time post workouts like this, you again need 2, 3 days to really see more of that super compensation. But again, if you don't work hard enough, you don't have the dip. If you don't recover enough, you don't get the super compensation. And both of those are very important for growth. And that's why, like for me, like one of my biggest pet peeves, like when I do consultations with athletes or like a new athlete comes in and I look at their previous training and the only easy day they have is a Monday, but then Tuesday to Sunday, there's always hard intervals every day. And that's not just swimming. Like they could do something hard Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and bike and run. Like they always have hard intervals. So you'll never have this athlete have these super compensation phases where they get better. So if you don't have at least 2 days of easy training in there, a swim or an off day, I can almost guarantee you're not seeing super compensation. You're not seeing growth because you're either not being coached very well or you're so in the mentality that you have to work hard every day. Um, and you won't see growth and you'll probably end up injured. So recovery days are really key for, longevity within your plan and also injury prevention and also seeing that growth as you move through it. And then the last one, strength. If you were to do one strength exercise in the off season, it's going to be step ups. Not the most exciting workout. I understand that, but step ups have such a great progression and they also have a really good application to running and cycling. So when you think about a step up, the first mistake I see people making with the step up is the box is way too high, right? Like the step up wants it should be very natural, like you should feel like you're naturally moving through a step up. But if you're trying to put your foot up on a box and you kind of have to like finagle your leg, you're going to get injured probably doing that because the loading of that movement is so wrong that you're going to get injured. So I would say anywhere from 4 inches to 8 inches, not a lot higher than 8 inches, because you want to be able to put your foot on naturally, press through, and move through that. So you can do step ups in two different ways. Sometimes I have athletes do step ups before the run, no weight, but they do it before the run as like an activation where they're going through like 3 sets of 10 total, five each leg, or 4 sets of 10. And they're working on the posture, they're working on the knee lift, they're working on the force application into the ground, and then they run and they feel that nervous system turned on. Or you do it after you do the run workout or just like the hills that we did. And then you come back, you go to your step ups and you start working through your step ups. Okay. And you could, again, you could do, say, 4x10, 5x10 total. But the big thing with step ups is the integrity of movement and the integrity of force production and posture when you're doing that. So when you're looking at the best ways to do that, you're thinking about running and cycling. You want to think about good movement. So you're in front of that box, you lift that quad up, you push that foot down. You do not let that foot move forward. So you're starting pretty close to that box. So as you step up, you push down. That's the first thing. Press into the ground. You're pushing your foot into the ground. You're trying to have good grip of the ground on that box. As that, after that point, then you're now in like your stance phase of running. So as you're pushing, you're going to transfer the other leg up. Everybody knows what a step up is, but when you slow it down, so as you're moving through that stance phase, this is the hardest point, is that you want to push down with the foot on the box to move up. And you want to think about keeping as much strength through your arch and your calf and your glute and your quad to keep that control. And then as you push through, the other leg pops up automatically, and then you move into that knee drive. The knee drive is really critical because that knee drive on the other leg gets the glute to get in as much extension, hip extension as possible to get more out of that movement. Doing a step up without a knee drive, I think is going to be a lot less productive because you're not getting as much extension through that glute and hip. Uh, as you move through that. Step ups, I would not recommend weight at first because you don't, a lot of times when I see people with weight, the weight makes them slump forward. And I would rather you have a good posture that allows good coordination of the muscle fibers you're going to use when running. And then once you feel good enough that you can move through it, add dumbbells in each hand, say five or tens or 15s. But if you add too much weight and the integrity of the movement goes away, then reduce the weight and just keep working on the muscle fiber, the muscle firing patterns as you move through that. Um, and then, like a progression to that would be not necessarily adding more weight, it's about adding more acceleration into the box and have that acceleration down and transfer up into the knee drive be quicker, like a quicker, more efficient movement, more so than adding more weight to get more burn. I would rather you have a faster, more coordinated movement and teach your body how to fire quickly to make it more effective. And then you could add weight, but adding weight is not as important for this because again, we're looking for integrity of movement, not just smoke in the muscles for the sake of that. So I hope you found this helpful. And I don't know how long I've been talking for, but it feels like forever. But we're gonna do more of these, as you move to into prep season and specific season. But like right now, one takeaway is if your peak races, which most triathletes are, like if your peak season is like later, it should look pretty non-specific right now. It's okay to do zone one and zone two because like that's key for building the engine, but you don't want everything to look like tempo and sweet spot right now. If you do that, you're likely going to get burned out. It's okay to do some of it, but a lot of the key workouts should look very non-specific to what your race looks like. And then you slowly mold into specific things. Okay. So hope you found this helpful. Um, yeah. Talk to you for the next one.